Yeah, on the concept of Joe Biden and will he be the Democrats' presidential candidate? See a lot of folks uh, seeming to be very nervous. And look, that's okay. I don't want you to feel bad for caring. It's good to care. But my perspective, which I offer to you, uh, is that it's not necessary. Not one candidate being better than another, whichever way you feel on it, does not necessarily mean either candidate is bad. To that end, centrist Democrats, like the old-fashioned Democratic Party, they are pushing hard to get Biden out of the White House, or rather, to get him to not be the candidate for 2024. Where does the time go? Strangely, in a turn of events that would not have been predicted by anybody, including those involved, progressives seem to be the ones, at least progressive politicians, are the ones lining up behind Biden. Here is something I want you all to consider. Trump got shot, and the polls barely wiggled. Biden went on stage and mumbled nonsense during the debate, and the polls barely wiggled. They didn't go up. And the case that the Democratic Party is making, I think, is a fair one, even if you don't agree with them. The points they're bringing up are true, which is that it shouldn't be close right now, and it's close. Trump has 34 felony convictions, and it's close. That is a problem, but notice that the polls have been not moving very drastically, considering how drastic the news has been of late. That tells me that people are not voting based on who Joe Biden is. And they will not be voting based on who the Democrats select to run in his stead if it comes to that. They're voting based on what MAGA is and what Republicans have done and what they are saying they will do. At least that's where their political opinions seem to be formed. That's good news for us. Whatever we do, whoever we end up going with, just has to be able to make the case for why Trump is bad. And you know what? That's not a difficult case to make. He's pretty obviously horrible. I could make the case to you for why drinking water with rusty nails in it is not a good idea. I probably don't have to try very hard because it's just inherently obvious. You saw Trump at the RNC last night, and you weren't already a Trump supporter, you're probably not now a Trump supporter. It was the same wacky stuff that he always does. But the shock value is decreasing. It's less charming to see a politician do this stuff and just be like, oh, wow. That's subversive. It's not subversive anymore. It's just who Republicans are. And yet, there's a good reason that Democrats are pushing to get Biden out, because Trump, being the Mango Mussolini that he is, should be just mollywopped in every single poll he is in. He's not. Now there's more calls coming from the DNC to get rid of him. Folks, this could be the weekend it happens, if it does end up happening. Biden, shouldn't laugh too hard at this, but Biden was talking about if God told him to get out of the race, or if his doctor told him to get out of the race because he had a health condition. Immediately following that, he got COVID. Also, God and doctors aside, Democrats are now piling up Two senators were among a flood, this is from the Washington Post, of at least a dozen Democrats who called on President Biden to drop out of the presidential race Friday. The largest single-day wave of lawmakers asking him to step aside since his disastrous debate performance last month. Again, even if you don't agree with them, let me just lay out what their pitch is here. Essentially, you get two opportunities with the nation's attention and your opponent on stage in modern American politics. The two presidential debates. During one of them, Biden did, just being real here, probably as badly as any candidate for president has ever performed during a debate. And he did so poorly that the nation wasn't paying attention to what Trump was doing at all. And that is what is critically needed. Got another one coming in September. Democrats want somebody on stage who's going to destroy Trump. I think that's not unreasonable, frankly. Although I'm not convinced that Biden couldn't. If he did a little bump or whatever. Senators Sherrod Brown from Ohio and Martin Heinrich from New Mexico? Weird. It's weird that they're using the punctuation there, but that's probably correct because they're the Washington Post and I'm some guy. And 10 House members on Friday added their names to the rapidly growing list of Democrats worried that Biden was on track to lose the election to Republican nominee Donald Trump. But the president's campaign reiterated in no uncertain terms that he would be staying put. For context, and I'm sure you've heard this already, but in case you hadn't, he basically has to say he's staying in up until he announces that he's getting out. Because if you say I'm considering it, that's the end. That means you're out. You can't go back to a normal campaign where they're like, didn't you say you were considering dropping out? I was, but now I'm not going to. Well, why were you considering it? That's what all the talk will be about. The tense standoff between the president and his own party, I added the word own there, set up a pivotal clash that is expected to intensify this weekend and could reach its culmination next week. The increasingly intense impasse between supporters and skeptics of the president suggests there is no end in sight to the Democratic infighting that has surrounded Biden's candidacy, as both sides have grown more dug in and willing to allow the standoff to play out in public. I think the president should end his campaign, Brown said in a statement Friday. Heinrich, hailing from a traditionally Democratic state, aides sphere has suddenly become competitive, called on Biden to step aside for the good of the country. Jumping down, less than 2 hours after O'Malley Dillon's appearance, 4 House Democrats released a joint statement calling on Biden to pass the torch, the broadest collective effort from Congress thus far, and a move some officials said was representative of a larger growing groundswell against Biden among lawmakers that could erupt into view if Biden does not step aside over the weekend. We must face reality. The push highlights an unmistakably ramped up push in Congress, yada, 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 yada. Let's see if they mention the squad. Do they mention the squad? Can we get a mention even when they're on the side of the incumbent? Ooh. The makeup of 4 lawmakers. Oh my God. Hey, there we go. On Friday, Biden campaign aides pointed to support, so Biden had to point it out. Washington Post wasn't going to do it on their own. The president had received from key figures, including liberal lawmakers such as Senator Bernie Sanders. Remember, they still use the word liberal to mean left-wing. Washington Post, kind of behind the times, but okay. Such as Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. During a lengthy Instagram live session Thursday night, Ocasio-Cortez told supporters that ousting Biden would lead to chaos and harm the party's chances of defeating Trump. Sanders, speaking on Morning Joe, offered a full-throated endorsement of Biden, saying the president could help Democrats win in a big way. All right. So, quick reminder, it's fine. Are all these people arguing over whether or not it's important to beat Donald Trump? No. Which means that the message America is getting every time they hear these factions argue is it is so important that we beat Donald Trump that we're willing to embarrass ourselves. Great. That's fantastic news. Guess what? If you like Biden, Biden runs best in a scenario where we are talking about how terrible Donald Trump is. If you want somebody to replace Biden, if that's who you think ought to be on the ticket, well, a great story behind their candidacy is that Trump is such a deranged villain that we're doing this Hail Mary to get me on the ticket to beat him, because it's just that important. Good. This is all fine. This all pushes the narrative, I feel, that frankly, anybody who wants America to remain a democracy needs to push, which is that the problem is Trump. The all-important thing is beating Trump. We don't maintain a democracy unless we defeat Trump. It's true. If you're for Biden, don't feel too terribly bad. First of all, even if he does get booted, he's already been president once. That's a pretty high watermark on a career. And if he doesn't get booted, this campaign against him is focusing largely on what a villain Trump is. And all the people who are working so hard to get rid of him now aren't going to have more hard feelings for Biden than they do for Trump. They will be campaigning for him if he stays in. But I want to remind everybody, it really is Biden's choice. No, there's not much anybody can do if Biden says, I'm not releasing my delegates. I'm staying in this thing, and I'm going to beat Trump in November. You can whine about it if you want. Prefer you didn't, but do as you please. But just know that regardless of what you do, I'm staying in. He can say that. He can do that. One interesting element of this, which I want to talk to you all about, is, well, let me first of all tell you what you can do. I want to be clear, though, I don't know what you should do. So you should consider this a little bit. What you can do if you want to affect this one way or the other is, if you're represented by a Democrat, write your representative and tell them you want them to speak out one way or the other. I'm not sure which way you should go with this, though. I genuinely believe, I may be wrong, and it'll be impossible for us to tell because only one of these things can happen, but I genuinely believe that our odds of winning are about the same and are in fact pretty good either way. I do not think Biden is good on the campaign trail. I think he's actually notably terrible at it. But I think most Americans seem to be getting the message. It's senility versus evil. We'll freaking take senility. There's no question there. However, I'm just saying, do as you please. You actually will have an effect on this if your representatives speak out for or against Biden. So if you feel that you want to affect it, write your representatives. That is what you can do. Okay. Now the interesting thing. Progressives seem to be heartily on Joe Biden's side, whereas the centrist Democrats are heartily against him. That's very odd. Very, very odd. I can understand why the Dems, the old-fashioned party leaders, essentially, are doing what they're doing. There's after looking at that debate, I could see why you'd get cold feet and say, "Oh God, well, we got to switch. We got to switch up the leadership." I don't get why progressives are riding with Biden. I really don't. I am indifferent at best, but I would think that progressives would be a little saltier over Gaza. But then again, let me offer this. And I'm going to rip this basically straight from the majority report, but it was a good point. In 2016, Sam Cedar said this, so don't give me credit for being a smart guy. But in 2016, the establishment of the Democratic Party got together and said, Biden, don't run. And he didn't. They said it was Hillary's time. Hillary ran. She lost to Trump. 2020, same thing. They asked Biden not to run. Eventually, they got on his side, but not in the beginning. Biden beat Trump. Now here they are. They're so wrong every time. As it relates to Trump and Biden specifically, wrong every time. Here they are again. They're saying Biden don't run. I can absolutely see why Biden is going, okay, all right, this again. Really? Even when I'm the incumbent, every time, you morons have no idea what you're talking about. It's understandable why he would feel that way. I just don't get why progressives are going out on a limb for Biden. I have thoughts. I have some guesses. I think possibly they feel the way I do, where it doesn't matter which centrist Dem is at the top of the ticket. Not really. And it is a risk to switch them out. If for no other reason, because Americans are sick of the chaos that Trump brings, but we'll be creating our own chaos amongst the Democrats with this possibility. But despite not caring, progressives are thinking perhaps since it doesn't matter, let's take this opportunity to make Biden more progressive. Exactly as I have been telling you is possible with all of our politicians. We have leverage points. We have opportunities wherein to leverage our support to make any candidate more progressive. And possibly this is just what's happening right now. I'm not going to dwell on it much longer, though, because I don't know. Regardless, I want you all not make this one of your major stressors in life. It is an important decision. Got to be made. Who's going to run against Trump? Yeah, we should have made that decision a long time ago. But you know what? We'll survive making it late. And regardless, we're going to talk about this in the next segment. Trump's doing a great job of showing the whole nation why he shouldn't be in charge of running a food court, much less a country. Give it some thought, and we'll see what the wicked community has to say.